Out of Order Gun Rights Podcast, episode 77.
Welcome to the Out of Order Podcast, your window into the firearms community, exploring those shaping the future of our rights and protecting our lifestyle, laws, legal cases, activism, and self-defense in a candid and honest podcast for our brothers and sisters in arms. Here's your host, James Kalita.
Thank you for tuning in to episode 77 of the Out of Order Gun Rights Podcast. Today's sponsor is giftforgunnuts.com. Head over to giftforgunnuts.com and you'll find great gift ideas for the upcoming holidays. I think it is 98 days until Christmas, and each day from now until Christmas we're going to post cool gift ideas. Not just the coolest gun, but cool and unusual things for you to get for yourself and the other gun nuts in your life that are fun to open on Christmas morning. Today's guest is Michelle Camp. Michelle is the state leader of the Well-Armed Women in Utah, and now here's Michelle.
Michelle Camp, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. So, Michelle, you're the state leader of the Well-Armed Women of Utah. Would you tell us a little about that?
Yes, so we are actually, it's the Well-Armed Women Shooting Chapters, and we're a nonprofit nationwide organization that works to educate, equip, and empower women in shooting skills.
And so how'd you become involved in the group?
I started looking, I kind of grew up shooting my whole life, and I used to go out and practice on a pretty regular basis with my dad, and he moved about 5 hours away. So I was kind of looking for a way to be able to continue to go out and train on a regular basis. This was several years ago, so the ranges were much more male-dominated than they are these days. So I thought it'd be kind of cool if I could find a group of women to go shoot with. So started doing a little bit of research, and I found the Well-Armed Women Shooting Chapters group, and we didn't have one here in the Salt Lake area where I'm located. So I actually decided to start one here. And then after our first meeting, I found that there was really a need we had a lot of women show up that first meeting, about 35, but 30 of the women had never even held a gun before. So that kind of took me on another direction to become a firearms instructor and be able to have a place where women could go kind of as a starting point in the shooting world.
Wow, excellent. And I read that you're an NRA instructor and it was another
USCCA?
organization.
Yeah,
USCCA.
Yep. I'm a USCCA instructor and also a USCCA training counselor, so now I actually can train other instructors, which is really cool.
So, 30 women out of the 35 at the first event never held firearms before. How?
No, it was crazy.
How'd you promote that event? How'd you reach those people?
So we did a lot of promotion on Facebook, which we still do. We have a pretty big Facebook presence, but I also did a press release. So I believe before we started our chapter, I had done a couple of local radio interviews, and I know I did a couple of local TV stations. I don't even remember, this was so long ago now, if that was before or just after the opening of that chapter.
Oh, wow.
And the local ranges really helped to promote us as well.
Oh. So what advice would you have for women if they're possibly hearing this and they've never held a gun before? What advice would you have for them?
Well, I would say, obviously, check out the Well-Armed Women organization, because that's kind of what we're geared towards, is bringing in women to a non-threatening environment. All of our chapters have certified instructors, so we work with new shooters and try to make them, obviously understand the safety of firearms as well as, the shooting fundamentals and the basics. And it's a good place where you can learn with other women. So I would definitely say seek out a basic firearms class. Some people like a women's only class, which they're generally offered just about everywhere now. If you're okay going to a co-ed class, I have nothing against that either.
And I was reading, I guess earlier this year, you guys learned that there's been a surge in women applicants for concealed carry permits.
Yes, in Utah, I think that it's 2/3 of the applicants last year for concealed carry permits were women. There's been a huge surge in Utah.
Wow. Any insights as to why that is?
I see a lot of new women coming through my basic handgun class, as well as the shooting chapters and my concealed carry classes. And I think that it's kind of getting to the point where, obviously the news sensationalizes things, but you do see scary things happening. And I think women are taking the role of becoming their own self-protector a little bit more seriously. We've got a lot of single moms who worry about what they're going to do if, somebody comes into their house or if they're attacked. We also see a lot of women coming into our group who have husbands that work, out of the area or are gone on business quite a bit, and they're looking for a way that they can be able to protect their children primarily and also themselves, but you kind of get that mama bear instinct. And so we do see a lot of young mothers coming into our program.
So you mentioned that, when you started this 5 years ago, it was not as friendly towards women, and I've seen that too. It's a huge shift.
It is.
Anything in particular you could point to that sort of made that happen?
I think that the biggest thing has been women coming into firearms, because I think that it was kind of, I know when I used to go shoot, I never wanted to go by myself, and it was just an intimidation factor for me. You walked into a place where maybe the staff wasn't as friendly. I've definitely had situations where I've gone into firearm stores to buy ammunition or to look at accessories and been treated like I don't know what I'm talking about, or things like that. Luckily, I haven't had that happen for a really long time, but I think that the firearms industry in general has seen that the fastest growing segment of the firearms industry is women. So more women coming in constantly, and I think that they've done a pretty good job of adapting to what, kind of looking at what women really want or need versus, 10 years ago, it was just a pink gun. And if you wanted to sell a gun to a woman, that's what you did. Make a pink one. And they've gotten so much better. I mean, looking at the different firearms now that come with adjustable grips is just awesome, because you're looking at women, and I'm not one of the women that has tiny hands. I have actually pretty large hands, but I train women all the time that can't hold the larger guns. So to be able to see that, things like that, adapting for the female shooter are just really, really cool.
And
I think there's a big shift in the ranges, and I mean, just everybody. I've just seen a complete kind of transformation in the last 5 years, the way that we're treated when we're going into firearms stores, to gun ranges. People want us there. They're excited to see us, so it's really cool.
And so what's the biggest challenge for you guys? What's the hardest part of this mission?
Well, I think that probably overcoming some of the fears that women have, because they do feel, I still think, feel intimidated, because it does seem like you're coming into kind of a man's thing, you know what I mean? And so I think some women are hesitant to even start to do any type of firearms related things because they're worried about how they'll be perceived or how they'll be treated. Obviously, it's different in different areas of the country. I'm in Utah, so Utah is pretty firearms friendly. I don't have to worry about some of the things that some of my friends maybe in New York or New Jersey or California have to worry about. But I think it's just overcoming that initial kind of discomfort with entering into something that's so foreign to women. Women are the peacemakers, and just to be able to see that kind of transformation where are you make a decision that you could use your firearm to protect yourself and potentially end somebody else's life, it seems to me is a bigger decision for women than it is for men in general. I think that's kind of more naturally ingrained into men than it is women.
As you mentioned the mama bear, but then I guess that they give more thought to it.
They do, and that's kind of what makes them click, is when they think about what would happen if somebody was trying to hurt their children, and that resonates much more with women than if someone was trying to hurt them themselves.
So What advice would you have for someone that was, preparing to teach women, maybe either individual women or as a group? What would you say to them?
I think it's really important to understand that women learn differently than men do. Our brains are different. I know with all this kind of equality, everybody likes to think that everything's the same, but women really do go through a different learning process than men. And that's not to say that men can't teach women, because I work with a lot of male instructors who are absolutely phenomenal working with women, but it's just the different understanding of kind of the process that women go to get there, and they've got a lot more questions, and they're generally a lot more thoughtful about the steps that take them there, and they're not ready to, go to a concealed carry class, go buy a gun, and start carrying next week. It's more of it's a longer process. It's a more thoughtful process, and I think if you just understand and do some research into how women do learn differently than men, then that's helpful. Because if you can get that and be able to work with women, I laugh because I see firearms, boards that people are talking on and things like that. I remember I had one recently where one of the writers for USCCA was discussing women who have cried in her firearms class, which has happened, I think, to every instructor that works routinely with women. It's just can be a really overwhelming thing. Sometimes women are bringing in things that have happened in their past that you're not aware of and they don't want to talk about. They may have had a traumatic event. They may have had some sort of, a sexual assault or some kind of bad experience with a gun. So it's not uncommon to see that. But then you get the instructors who understand that and work them through that, or you get the instructors, there were comments saying, well, there's no place on the shooting range for crying, and if she was crying, I'd kick her out of there and tell her to come back when she's ready. Things like that don't work well with women, because if you did that, they're not ever coming back. So you kind of have to acknowledge that there are differences. It's going to be different than teaching a man, and you have to be able to work through that stuff to get them coming back, because ideally that's what we want.
Right. Oh. And speaking of bad advice out there on the internet, we hear all this, women should only have revolvers. What advice do you have about equipment?
That is so bad. I see so many women that will come into my class, and they'll come into a basic handgun class. They've never shot a gun before, and they've got a little 2-inch snub nose 38 revolver, or they're coming in with a little tiny light frame firearm. Like my first firearm, because the guy told me at the gun range that it would be great, was my first concealed carry anyway, was a Kel-Tec P3 AT, which was the lightest, smallest handgun you could get at the time. Well, it was horrible to shoot. I mean, it hurt my hands. It felt like it was going to fly out of my hands. Yeah, it was small and it was light and it was easy to conceal, but a lot of times women look at small and they think that's going to be easier to shoot. So if somebody at the gun store says, yeah, this little tiny pocket pistol is a terrific one to conceal, then they'll buy that and then they end up hating it or not wanting to shoot it. So my first piece of advice is to never buy your wife / girlfriend / friend, whatever, a gun. Let her go out and try as many as possible. I tell everybody who comes through my basic firearms class, don't buy anything you've never shot, and don't buy a gun until you've tried multiple options. That's another great thing about our shooting group is we have, my particular chapter has about 65 members, and they love to share their firearms. So just about anything you would ever want to shoot, you can come in and somebody in our group will have that. They'll let you try it out, see if it fits your hands, see if it feels good for you. Some women have a much harder time with recoil than other women because they just don't like it. So just being able to feel what that firearm is like when you're firing it is going to be much better. So that's my number one recommendation, is don't buy what even a well-meaning person tells you, or don't buy your wife a gun. Let her try out those guns. And then the whole revolver versus semi-automatic, I mean, there are definitely reasons to carry a revolver, and yes, revolvers are easier, but that's still not the best option for women. It's harder to carry revolvers on your body, which I always am recommending that you're carrying on body. Sometimes we have to purse carry. We're lucky because we have a lot more options on how we can carry, but there's a lot to be said for having that firearm on your body when you need it. So just kind of educating them. And I've had a lot of women who come in and they start carrying in the purse, and then as they realize, where their purse is and how hard it is to keep it on them constantly, they evolve and they go to on-body carry, which is kind of what we push. So it's just important to get as much information. And I think it's hard for men that haven't gone through that to be able to tell a woman what's a good gun for her, what is a great way to carry. It's different for everybody. And I think it requires obviously a lot of trial and error, but just a lot of practicing different, trying different guns, trying different holsters, all that fun stuff.
Right, and yeah, even clothes are different for women than for men, and yeah,
absolutely. And that's the thing. A lot of women don't want to have to change their wardrobe at all when they start carrying, but they want to carry on body. So that gets a little tougher too, because there are some things you just are going to have to probably change. It's just difficult if you're really committed to carrying on your body. You may not be able to. I mean, there's good options for women, but you may have to change up a few things.
And I always ask my guests if there are any books they recommend that all gun owners should read. Any come to mind?
Well, I'm a huge Jeff Cooper fan, so I'd say anything by Jeff Cooper is definitely a must-read.
All right.
I love all of John Locke's stuff, too, More Guns, Less Crime. I think that is really important for any firearms owner, because you hear people spew these statistics at you, and if you don't have real research to back it up, then it gets pretty difficult. But he has done a great job of getting that research out there, and his books are amazing. I love those. And then as far as educational, I love all of the USCCA training materials and their manuals and books, and they have some great stuff as well.
And where's the best place for folks to find you online?
So they can find us online at twawshootingchapters.org. So that's for the Well-Armed Woman Shooting Chapters. And we have got chapters in, I believe it's 49 states right now. I think we're over about 350 chapters and close to 12,000 members nationwide. So we're everywhere. Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for being on the show. Any parting words for our listeners?
I don't think so. Thank you for having me. It's been a good conversation.
Thanks again for tuning in to episode 77 of the Out of Order Gun Rights podcast. Show notes page for today's episode is outoforderjameskalita.com/77. And please remember to head over to giftforgunnuts.com and check out all of the great gift ideas we have over there for the Christmas season. This is Out of Order James Kalita. We'll see you next time.